Yo, this is Miles Cook, and you're listening to the CABBAGES Hip-Hop Podcast.
Gary.
Hello, Jeff.
Gary. Sweet Gary. We're back. We're doing
We're
it.
back.
We've
We're doing it.
decided to battle again.
I'm glad it
Why?
is.
Okay. We
I'm glad we're doing
decided
this.
to revive the bad movie battle.
Bad movie battle part
After an absolute walloping you got at the hands of me in the last one, to the point where I gave away Harlem Nights. Just gave up a point in the bonus episodes
Yeah, sure.
because we weren't going to do this again. What are we talking about? What are we going to do again? What movie is this?
We're doing My Baby's Daddy.
My Baby's Daddy.
My
We're
Baby's
really
Daddy.
gonna
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah, oh, yeah. You watched it. I watched it. We're doing this. Look, it's my pick. I got first pick this round, which I know sometimes it's winner gets first pick, but like
Rounds. You
I
have
can
all the
see that I
picks.
lost on points.
I don't know if I
in
can
the
do
season.
this.
I lost on points last season, but I think I won
Wait,
on
whoa,
picks.
whoa.
So I feel pretty good about having first.
Whoa.
So I feel pretty good
Don't
about having
start.
first pick.
I lost on points, but
feel
I
really good
won
about-
on blank. It doesn't matter what
Yeah,
you
I
fill
won on
that
picks,
blank
which is
in.
why,
You still lost. I
I
don't
won on
want this
picks,
reframed. I crushed.
which is
you.
why I think I'm well suited to do the first pick of this one. You did the first pick last time. I do first pick this time.
Uh-huh.
I can say with confidence, unlike your first pick, this movie was not Tremors.
What was the plot of this movie?
Sandworms? We'll be right back. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest for today's show. Joining us now is Miles Cook. The Brooklyn-based rapper/producer is associated with the Karma Kids hip-hop collective, through which he recently released his debut, I Used to Feel Things. You can check that record out on Bandcamp or wherever music is streamed or sold. Hello and welcome to the show.
What's up? Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that, given the film that you had to watch may not necessarily have been high on your wish list of pictures. I imagine you had not seen this before.
I definitely hadn't. I looked at the cover and I was like, how bad could it be? But best laid plans of mice and men, I guess.
That's a great question. Can we start with that question?
Sure, go right ahead.
How bad could this movie be? I mean, we're talking about a member of The Sopranos. Some would say one of the more electric actors on The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Anderson, who had a wild and long career and has been on genre-defining television shows. And Eddie Griffin, who, while maybe having a spotty reputation with the movies, is still a pretty funny dude.
Don't forget, there's John Amos is also in here. He's like a legend, like coming to
Absolutely.
America. So
In my notes, my comments about John Amos as Uncle Vinny, he is mostly wasted here. Mostly he just goes around grumbling at these losers he's got living in his house. Beyond that kind of decent speech he gives towards the end, where suddenly there's the first character in this film that has any sense of actual humanity, is him in that moment just being like,
Get your shit together.
do something with your lives, be men, grow up.
He has the funniest line in the film, which was kind of a throwaway as he's like walking away from that speech. And he says, or you'll end up living with, what was it? Living with your nephew and his two broke ass friends. As he walks away from it. And I was like, man, he's the only one that will step up to the plate and say what is real about this film.
One thing I did notice is some of the funniest lines in this film, and I use that as loosely as I possibly can because this is a comedy without jokes. So much of that is 80 yard later, which is either something in the editing, and we'll certainly talk about the editing on this film, or it is a reflection of they sent people in and said, here, read some jokes because this movie isn't funny.
I feel like we have to backpedal a little bit because we jumped right in, but I was like, let's talk about like how loose the narrative is. So like within the first 5 minutes in the movie, I felt like I was having a fever dream. Just like the hard cuts, like not knowing what's going on. So they start. I went back and like skimmed a little bit because I was like, I want to make sure I'm not going crazy. It was like, did that narration in the beginning set us up for anything that was to be expected to happen in this film? And the answer was no. I was like, absolutely not.
Not at all.
The only thing we learned from the animated opening, the only thing we learn is that they're friends.
Not how they became friends,
And
like how
one of
long
them-
they've been friends.
Yeah.
They're
One
friends.
of them is like in love with a woman who doesn't love him back.
That's it. That's all they tell you.
That's it. That there's a whole bunch of information. They go to the movies a lot. They did this. They did that. Like there were all kinds of things they did that you're like, all right, cool. I've made a note of all these things. Never came up again.
None of it matters.
Not once.
Like watching in the very beginning, the animated sequence, I got excited because like you start thinking like, oh, this is Bebe's Kids. Like I'm about to see
I had
something.
the same thought.
I'm like, all right, I'm
Stop,
excited.
though.
I'm interested. This is going to be something I'm going to want to see.
I would have given double the money I paid to see this twice on YouTube for an appearance by Robin Harris. Please,
Yeah,
anything.
100%.
Anyone from Bebe's Kids would have made this better.
I would just be happy to see Eddie Griffin's version of Bebe's Kids.
Yeah, I
That
got
would be
hyped
great.
because it had like the Bob James sample in the beginning with the
Mhm.
break. You know, I was like, oh, we've got like Baby's Kids energy coming in, and then like it kind of starts. You're like, all right, like I don't know exactly why we're at this house party, but like maybe something good is gonna come out of this movie, and then your hopes and dreams are quickly burned, just dashed.
You know, the
Like,
thing
oh,
is,
yeah.
we don't even really need them to introduce them as having been friends since they were kids because they bring it up a lot. Throughout the
I
film,
wanna know
bring up
how
the
they
fact,
became
we've been friends
friends.
since we were kids, and I'm like, then why did you even introduce us to them as cartoons?
They
Why?
give you no explanation for why they're living together, though. Which, like, if normally I could rescind some of that, but like, I feel like that's such an integral part of the story because they're in that house and they're spending
Yes.
time together. It's like, but why? How did they get there?
I think it's so important to keep in mind the way this is set up is there's no way in hell that animated sequence existed until after they filmed the movie.
Right.
There's no way in hell that was
But
a
like,
planned
who was
thing.
the person that
At some
handed them
point
a
someone's
note?
like, you know what, we need to explain how you guys are friends.
Who is the person that handed them a note that said, I don't think it's clear that these guys have been friends since they were kids? And did they watch the movie?
It was probably Harvey.
This is a Harvey.
Yeah, I now that you mention it, it's like they definitely retroactively put that intro in because like it doesn't help, but like
No.
it makes way more sense that it was an afterthought.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Otherwise, where does that film start? Like, where does that film start otherwise?
Mm.
It starts with a house party where you meet a handful of guys who know each other, and well, 2 out of 3, they're girlfriends, but people who they hook up with. And that's what you get. Yeah, that would be the intro of a movie, which is not a
Yeah,
movie.
we went straight from children to like banging their mates.
Yeah,
That was
not
the
a lot
move.
of
Because it
distance
wasn't like we
between
got a
those things.
shit ton of the party per se. Before
No,
they
and
started
when we
making
first
movies.
see Anthony Anderson as G, when we first meet G,
Yeah.
he's talking to some other woman,
Right.
and then Bai Ling comes up behind him. Which, can we just stop for a moment and just recognize that Bai Ling is in this movie? Can we just accept that this is actually something that happened? This is
I
somebody
don't know
who
if
had
I
been
have
in-
do I have to accept it or do
You
can
might
I-
have to accept it. She
Yeah, I
had
have
been
to
in
accept it.
so
It
many
was real.
movies before this. So many movies before this.
This
and-
cast is insane. It's an insane cast for how awful it is.
So like also within the first 5 minutes, I was like, is this basically it's like an episode of Sopranos mixed with Rush Hour on like acid, basically. Like it's just like because it's you don't get to it's the performance from what is it? It's Michael Imperioli, I think his name is Christopher
Yeah.
Moltisanti on The Sopranos. It's just
You
the
can
same
call him Christopher.
guy.
We don't care. We're not like
Yeah, I'll just call him Chris.
Just call him Christopher.
Everyone will know him as Chris from The Sopranos. Christopher.
All white
So-
people look alike anyway. Just call him whatever you want. I'm John. I don't give a shit. His name's
But it's
fucking
just-
John. It's John.
His performance is like plucked right out of an episode of The Sopranos, even down to like the crossover with him like being involved in music, because that was in one of the seasons too. So I was picking up on that heavy, and then just like the humor is also like they're leaning in heavy on the black and Asian jokes. So it's like, yeah, this feel like, but they're not. It's not better than Rush Hour by any stretch of the imagination. I even feel bad mentioning Rush Hour in the same breath of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is, let's just accept it, this is a composite of better movies. It's Three Men and a Baby. It's
three men and three babies.
3 men and a little
Three
lady
babies.
as well. 3 men and 3 babies. That rolls off the tongue. It is Rush Hour. It is Eddie Griffin's stand-up act. There's no original idea in this film whatsoever. And you can only really know that by getting through it and realizing that, like, even the premise, even the most novel idea of 3 men who live with each other have sex with 3 different women at the same night, same time, and they all get pregnant, and then they all have the babies at the exact same time. Now, if this was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, we would be watching something extraordinary about to unfold. We would be watching like that. These 3 babies are the heroes of humanity. They're going to save the fucking world.
Films off of this.
I think they'd be giving him a lot of credit, and certainly it could be based off of this shit. I think that is stoner talk right there.
I even feel like the inclusion of the babies in this movie feels like an afterthought. Like they don't add anything to the story whatsoever. It's just like they crawl out of the like, what do you call them, car seats or whatever, and at the party, and then they're on a couch, and then they find them, and then that's it. There's nothing really happens. They just move from one location to another, and then that somehow is supposed to progress the story along.
What's the word, Jeff? What's the word?
What word?
Stakes. This movie has no
stakes. There's none. Listen, that scene is so wildly infuriating because there's a real chance, and this goes into my 3 least favorite part, my 3 least favorite things about this movie. They have a real chance at stakes there. If these guys somehow lose the kids, or it gets back to the women that they've lost the kids for a short amount of time to have a party or something, if they get caught in any small way, we have a chance for stakes in this film.
Yeah.
Instead, they may as well have just animated that part too, because it was a cartoon. Out of nowhere, losing your children is a cartoon. It is so asinine.
Also, just like them navigating through the party, no one saw 3 different
Nobody.
babies crawling.
No consequences whatsoever
it's just
for
like,
anything.
It's like, even in like, I watch sci-fi movies, so I'm willing to suspend disbelief a lot. But babies crawling through a party and no one notices them. No, it's just I couldn't take it.
I wanted to burn down that house with all the people in it, babies included. When they came out and they were like, "Oh, the babies are fine. Everything's fine." Next scene. Thanks for hanging and like being worried at all about these characters. But you don't need to worry. Nothing.
It's just the next morning. It's just the next morning in the next scene.
Now here's the next 43 minutes of this film.
Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in those moments.
No,
it's just a series of scenes that you're subjected to.
That's the movie. That's the whole movie. A series of scenes we've been subjected to.
Moldesanti's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Progress from missing the baby's birth or whatever he did at the beginning, which he didn't. Yeah. He was there on time or something.
Yeah, he was there for
but he was there later than they would have liked. Yes. To full blown having to give a speech to be a part of his daughter's life, which is my number 1 least favorite thing in the film, is his speech to win back his family is unhinged lunacy. It's total garbage. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be there. I want to be there to like give my kids cereal or whatever on their first day of school. First and foremost, you don't even live at the same house as them. When are you going to be there? You're just going to go every morning. You're going to wake up and you're going to go to their house every morning.
He's also living with 3 other grown men.
Dudes. It's just a big dude house.
As I've tried to look through this, as I've tried to understand this and ask questions like, what is the plot of this movie? Which is a question that
What
Jeff and
is
I have
the,
been asking
we're gonna
ourselves
have
for
to ask
days.
that at some point.
We will eventually get to that point.
Okay.
But it's like these guys are basically allowed to coast for 6 months as dads and still get to live in their shitty bachelor pad instead of stepping up and moving in with their girlfriends.
Or literally doing anything. There's a scene where they're holding their children, and Eddie Griffin is like, "Hey man, it looks like you guys have never held your children before." And they're like, "We haven't."
6 months. That's supposed to be 6 months.
6 months they
lives.
haven't, like 2 of them
Like,
haven't even picked the child up.
Again, suspension of disbelief again. I mean, I
Right.
actually do believe in aliens before I believe in these behaviors. I believe in aliens more so than I believe that any of these women would have put up with these guys not being in the kids' lives in the first 6 months. I refuse, because these guys don't have real jobs.
Yeah.
G works in the grocery store that his girlfriend's dad owns.
It's bodega-ish.
But they got that Peking duck cheesesteak, which is one of the few
Right.
laughs of the movie, is Peking duck cheesesteak, and then
I
duck
want
comes out.
one.
Oh God,
was
I'm just remembering, like, we didn't mention Method Man is in this movie.
Oh,
also.
we're gonna
like-
mention Method Man.
We're gonna
We
mention
can start
Don't worry
mentioning him
about that.
right now.
Actually, you know what? The hell with talking about how bad this is. Let's talk about Method Man. Go.
Let's go, Miles, go.
Hit
I
me.
just came out of complete left field. Like, what? Like, just, and like, quite literally, because he climbs through a window for
Yep.
his intro to the movie. So unexpected to see him pop up in this movie. I thought he did great for what he was asked to do. And like, all jokes aside,
Yeah.
it was a great
was
performance from him.
The
but it's
only
just like,
shining star in a movie filled with empty space.
Well, him and Lil Tupac. Let's
Point
give
Yes.
taken.
credit.
Point taken. Lil Tupac.
Let's give
was-
credit. But let's focus on Meth for a sec, because I think part of why Meth's role was as delightful and surprising as it was is that he shows up so late in the narrative. You forget that he was mentioned in the intro, in the animated intro, with G robbing the same convenience store that ultimately he ends up working in. Which that's not a joke that they make in the film, but that is one of the funniest things about this film,
Right.
is that that's the job. Oh, the store that I robbed candy from when we were younger. I got to
Yeah.
work here now. Now this is my boss. Like,
Yeah.
that's just like life is just grinding you to a fucking pulp.
if they should have emphasized on that, that would have been something worth noting.
A joke. It would have been a joke.
A real honest
It would have been
joke.
funny. I've been
Yeah.
paying them back ever since. That's a line. Do you think that a script that was punched up by the co-screenwriters of National Lampoon's Van Wilder would have figured that out?
I haven't seen Van Wilder in a while. Does that have funny jokes in it?
No, that's terrible.
Yeah.
But it was a successful movie. Van Wilder was a
was.
successful movie, catapulted Ryan Reynolds
It did.
to bigger and better things.
There was
and
somebody else in that. who
also
was
worse things.
Really big later.
But it's like but
Penn.
that was it. But the thing is when Eddie Griffin and Coke Daniels wrote this movie,
Yeah.
they had to call in these two schmucks to come in and
What did
punch
they
up the script.
contribute?
Well, they contributed something, but enough to get that second billing. Coke Daniels and Eddie Griffin getting top billing for screenwriting
Right.
with David Wagner and Brent Goldberg.
Everyone
basically-
involved should have been ashamed to put their name on this.
Yeah,
frankly.
I mean, I think they were called in
Except
because
Method
this film needed help. But yeah, but Method Man, look,
He was
Method
dope.
Man-
He was funny. The bit where he was ironing grilled cheeses. I want one.
Yeah.
I want one right now. Anytime, any place. Make me
Also, like a
grilled
slight
cheese.
slight nod to Wu Tang when he's like ling ling bong bong, you know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, hell yeah, they snuck that in there. I was like, well done, well done.
like they let him ad lib. They let him ad lib for like a moment. Like, good. He's actually one of the funny people. Let him ad lib.
I think he's easily the best part of the movie.
Not even close.
Keep in mind, like, this is a couple years, not that many, but a couple years after How High. So he has proven that he could carry a movie, that he could actually carry an entire comedy.
What year did this come out?
This is 2004,
Yeah.
and How
Okay.
High was 2001. So we're
Right.
talking about not a lot of years between them. This is somebody who knows what they're doing, and
Right.
he is so underutilized in this movie that it's embarrassing that when we get to the very end, when they start to do the like Animal House style ending where you find out what happened to everyone,
It's so long.
they do that ending, and then it's like there's this whole segment of his cooking show, of
Yes.
No Goods cooking show.
Yes.
I would have watched that. I would have watched the
In a
cooking
second.
show. That was more entertaining And it wasn't even a good gag. It was just like, and I know Raekwon's the chef, but I would watch Matt's cooking show.
I would.
I still
Totally. Anything to get him on the screen more for this film. They waited way too late to introduce him. And then, we also had to resolve the non-issues that were happening. Everybody had to grow up, I guess.
But yeah, well, like the growing up stuff is just nonsense. It's like, I don't like it took that party where they almost lost the kids, where that's the realization moment. Not where like the rest of their lives are terrible. Their partners don't respect them. They are generally, they're framing this as because they show you the first thing is the house party, that these guys are party dudes. These guys are bachelors. It's like,
right.
Two of you are in committed relationships.
Right.
Yeah, they start the movie with them being irresponsible.
Yeah.
And then like it takes like kind of having like losing your kids to I mean, and even then it was like they barely got their shit together. Like,
yeah. Like at the end, the way they demonstrate they got their shit together is that they are now all together, the three guys, with their kids in, baby Bjorns or wherever, and they're rolling down the street with them. That's being a father. After all this is your definition of being a father is something you shot for the trailer. Something you shot for the fucking trailer.
From a ridiculous case of dudes bad. It's the thing that I call when you just like have dudes in a movie, but you don't really know how to make them look bad. It's like, I just make them shitty fathers. Dude's bad. Everyone will believe it.
Or they're just doing nothing. Like,
right.
It's like, this would be fine behavior if you're in your 20s, but they aged them and then built a movie around
this brings
that.
up a great question.
Uh-huh.
How old are these guys?
Yes. Right.
How old are these characters? Tell me. Shoot me an age right now.
It's a great question.
You have no idea.
They
all look 35.
Yeah,
they all were 35.
But they're like living 22-year-old lives. And like nothing, there's no consequences to anything. I don't understand. How old are these guys?
Oh God, we got to backpedal again. So like the love story between Eddie Griffin's character and like what was it, Brandy? I think her name is in the movie or something like that.
Oh, the woman he meets
from
the
Mommy
class.
and Me class.
Right.
Brandy, yeah.
Yeah. So like, man. Just like even what happened there? Like what?
Okay. So
what are we doing?
I want to talk about that part of the plot because we're going to get to the question: what is the plot of this movie?
Okay.
But there are several stories that sort of
part of
play out.
Are you suggesting that is part of the plot?
Okay.
I say that.
What I want to know is all right.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let me frame it like this.
Okay, please. I want to be clear here.
I do too, and I don't think we're going to get there. I'm almost guaranteeing you we're not going to get to clear on this. There's no clarity whatsoever.
Not on this movie.
The way I understand it is Eddie Griffin, who is supposed to be a nerd who is like head over heels in love with Roe. That's what we know about him coming in, is that he wanted to be an inventor, but instead is just like in a bad relationship. That's all we know about.
Yes.
He decides he needs to hit on a woman and dresses up like a pimp and acts like a pimp. And that makes her mad. And then they're fine. It just makes sense to get together. And she's all over him.
That was all. Yeah, that's exactly how that played out.
Somewhere in there, two babies grow teeth and start talking about him smashing her, like having sex with her.
Yeah.
That's a real thing that happened in the film.
That scene is unhinged. That scene made me uncomfortable, actually. If I'm being perfectly honest, that scene made me uncomfortable.
Like, they were like, hell yeah, man, you got to tap that ass. And I'm like, why?
I was sucking on those nipples earlier. I'm like, bro, you got
but that's
baby
not sexual at all. You are babies with teeth all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's crazy that they did that.
It's like if you'd ever wanted to see the porn parody of Look Who's Talking or Look Who's Talking 2, there you go.
This is a porn parody of a movie that was never made. That's how I would describe this film to someone. It's a pornographic parody of something that never got made.
No, it's a pornographic parody of 7 better films.
Ugh.
Which is very much in line with, say, like what Eddie Griffin and Anthony Anderson did in the Scary Movie franchises.
You might have just got yourself on a list with saying porn parody of Look Who's Talking To. It's not a sentence I'd ever think I'd hear uttered.
Yes, well, I mean, look, I'm sure there's a watch list that I'm on already for all sorts of stuff. I'm on the run as we speak.
Yeah, why do you think he's behind a blank white wall right now?
Yeah, nothing signifying location. But the babies said those things. Like, we all listened to this. The babies basically were encouraging him to fucking rail this woman.
In front of them.
What prompts that? What makes that happen?
If they had this power all along, I guess it does make they ended up on a couch outside and they were fine thing.
Oh no, they tried to write it off with because he jumps out of the chair and he goes, "Oh, I think I had too much to drink. I should get out of here." Mm-hmm. So they're just he's hallucinating. The baby's talking. It's not really happening.
Drank for 15 straight years without really much of a break at any point. Wake up to midnight, to 2 a.m., to 5 a.m., whatever. Never have I seen a baby with teeth talk to me while I'm macking on their mom.
Yeah, I'm not giving them a pass for it, but I remember they did try to do something there where they're like, yes, this is very unhinged. We have to kind of downplay this in some way. If you've
got to write that into the film, then just erase the page. Just be like, you know what? You're right. This is dumb. Let's not have the babies who have been in the film almost the whole time just sprout teeth and talk like it's a Conan O'Brien sketch.
I feel compelled to point out that this is not even the only movie that came out in 2004 with talking babies. This is the same year as Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2, which was nominated for a Razzie.
It's considered to be the worst, maybe the worst film of all time.
Yeah, nominated. That was in the Razzies running, as was White Chicks and Catwoman. This movie didn't even get on the Razzies radar.
2004 is awful.
It's not as bad as 2003, but it is.
White Chicks is. I had nightmares about White Chicks. I couldn't sleep for 2 days.
I think I blacked that out from my memory because I've watched it, but I don't want to remember seeing it.
Anthony Anderson, he's a boxer.
No,
but one of the gags is that he gets just knocked out by one punch over and over and over again. And he keeps being like, well, I'm a boxer. I'm in training. Was that a joke? Was that supposed to be a joke? Okay.
I think so. That I do think was actually meant to be a joke. Is the idea that he is this glass jaw who keeps getting knocked out.
Right.
So I can only remember 2 times. I think there were 3 of those. So right in the beginning of the movie when
Griffin
he finds that his wife announces she's pregnant,
right.
He gets knocked out. And then his wife knocks him out again when he's
she introduces violence into their home in front of the child.
Yes.
And there's 0 consequences for her either. She just gets to have a family. That's how that works.
Yeah, we skated right over the domestic violence in this movie. It just happens very casually.
His father-in-law brought him outside and was like, let's smoke a joint, and I'll tell you about the time that I got shit kicked out of me by my wife.
And he knows, too. He's like, buddy with him about it. He's like, yo, how'd you get that black eye? I know it wasn't for boxing. Does my daughter beat the shit out of you?
Oh, God. It's so terrible.
Just smoke this joint.
And then Eddie Griffin knocks him out in the yard.
It was so
they're slap boxing, and he just pops him.
Oh yeah, well, okay, yeah. So it does happen 3 times in the movie.
And then also at the very end, at the martial arts studio, he gets kicked in the nuts by a child and collapses.
And can't handle it. He just
can't handle it. This is, I mean, even then, he's like, he can't handle.
Between that and his fart jokes, he really had a monumental run through this film.
Lil Tupac punks him in the movie too, and then he which I loved. I actually loved that part.
Lil Tupac is a gift to the screen when there,
especially at the very end with his original song "Baby Mama Drama" and music video.
A song about the film, which is a rarity by 2004. You don't see that very often. You do not see people writing a song about the film.
I'm sorry. Do we have Will Smith to thank for that? Did he pioneer the I mean,
I
no.
would say-
Okay,
I
sorry,
would
that's
say-
a ridiculous statement.
Now, even if you want to put it in the hip hop context, I'm gonna say probably Kid and Play get it first. Class act.
Duh.
Work that body. Work that body. We watched that
I
last
watched
season.
that like a
Class
year or
Act's
two
fantastic.
ago. I'm surprised it just like escaped my memory. But Will Smith obviously like triumphing in terms of like name and popularity and amount of times he's done it.
It was a very popular
You're-
thing to do in the 80s. And I think
Yeah.
one of the last films I remember seeing it happen, I want to say Turner and Hooch, but
Mm.
I know that Fletch does it. Fletch has multiple
yeah.
songs about Fletch in it, the Chevy Chase Fletch.
Right.
And that's like late in the game for it. It happened
But
a
it's
lot in
something
the
like
70s.
I'm like a Will. Like you got to think about it, like in the context of these things is like, you know, when Will Smith did it, it's like that's like the peak moment of it. Like Men in Black is a
Wild-
song about the movie
About
Men in Black.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Wild
Wild
West.
yeah.
It's a song about Wild Wild West.
I think
movie.
even like the Bad Boys soundtrack has an original song.
Oh
about,
yeah.
His kids' Karate Kid movie, which take me to my grave if you want on this, is better than the originals. But the Jackie Chan, is it Jaden? That his kid's name?
Did you recently join Scientology? Or have you been a long time member?
Long time.
Okay.
So Jade Smith, he does a song at the end of Karate Kid about being a karate kid. So he took his dad. His dad was like, if you're going to do this, you may as well make a song in our studio. And put
Listen,
it on the
I'm not
soundtrack.
going to debate you on whether the original Karate Kid is as good as.
Nor
the
should
Will
you.
and-
It is.
I just like because I haven't watched them recently enough, but my gut tells me to push back on that.
Yeah.
Do as you will, but I'm here. I'm gonna stand behind it. I'm with it.
I respect that.
I appreciate you for that. Gary doesn't want to talk about it at all.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh my god, don't get him started, please.
I mean, really, the only true Karate Kid is Hillary Swank, but that just
Fair
you
enough.
know, that's between
Fair
the
enough.
three of us for now. Let's not share this with the rest of the world.
Your secret's safe with me.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
thank
not gonna cut
goodness.
this out. You're gonna put it out there.
Oh,
And
of
I'm gonna.
course, it's going everything.
The beautiful
let's-
part
but
is
can
that
we-
nobody cares about me on the internet, so I don't have to deal with it.
And I quit
there are
Twitter,
no
so we're good.
consequences.
Can we talk about the music, please?
Yeah.
Just okay. So this movie
Juvenile
comes
is
out,
on this soundtrack.
This movie comes out in 2004.
Yeah.
The rap songs we hear in this film are Run DMC's Peter Piper
Right.
and Salt and Pepper's Push It, plus repeat use of Scarface's My Block.
On my block. Yeah.
So like the three existing rap songs that make it prominently into the film, two of them are in the 1980s and one is in the 2000s,
Right.
which is great. Why in a movie called My Baby's Daddy, why isn't Be Rockin' the Business 1997 Billboard Hot 100 charting hit single My Baby Daddy in this movie?
It is a mistake.
I think they probably didn't want to have anything to do with this film. Or they couldn't afford it. Like, do you look at the film you just watched and think about what the budget could have been.
They couldn't afford B Rock and the Biz in 2003. I could afford B Rock and the Biz in 2003.
I'm going to guarantee you. This is the thing. If you
I
approach
am not a wealthy man.
before the movie came out, if you approached the three of us, we had a rap song out, and they approached us and said, "We've got a movie with Michael Imperioli, Anthony Anderson, Eddie Griffin." They went down the whole list, and they were like, "We want to use your rap song for that." The three of us would be like, "Where do we sign?"
Yeah.
That sounds
Fair.
awesome. This is going to blow up. After the movie came out, I'd be shocked if they approached them at all. But if they did, I could see them seeing the movie and be like, "Please remove our song from this for all future purposes, please."
Can we
No
figure
more.
this out?
But no, I mean, it's just a wild missed opportunity to name your movie after that phenomenon and not use that song.
And then there's a bunch of songs by Rodney Jerkins on the soundtrack.
Uh,
So like Rodney Jerkins, who he's by, AKA Darkchild, and you'll know him from the hits he's done with Mary J. Blige, Jennifer Lopez, Destiny's Child. He did Ray J's One Wish. He did Brandy and Monica's The Boy Is Mine. Like real deal producer, and he does nothing of substance at all with the soundtrack of this movie. All of his songs are immediately forgettable.
I don't remember them.
You got to work with the material you're given, and there's nothing of substance in this movie to contribute to. Like, imagine trying to write a song. Like, if we're going back to like the theme of the movies that have a song written about them, which at the end of the movie they like do a good job of that. But like, if you wanted to like outside of like, if you wanted to bring in someone that's like, let's say talent, or oh my god, I want to backpedal. I'm talking shit about this kid.
Oh, we got spicy.
That kid sucked. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, but like someone that is like has a name, renown, right? Just like what are you giving them to work with in this material? So
if they could afford the producer behind The Boy Is Mine to do the soundtrack to this movie, they could afford Be Rockin' the Biz. That's all I'm saying.
The credits arguably had the best use of music because the first part of the credits is Lil Tupac doing his thing. And the second part is that really weird Pharrell Snoop Dogg song, which
I didn't make it that far. You guys are crazy.
Oh, you gotta watch credits. You gotta watch credits. Some of the best things happen on credits.
I mean, if you gotta talk about a blooper
reel in the credits.
In this one, no, because you have the music video, but credits.
But the credits are so long that they do the
So
Tupac
long.
song, the little Tupac song. Then they do that weird "I'm Gonna Steal Your Girl" Pharrell Snoop Dogg songs, really, really bad, but like clubby and weird. And then there's a Juvenile song.
Yeah, eventually you get to a Juvie song.
And I'm like, yo, it's like, why didn't you use this kind of later Juvenile song in the film?
You had Juvenile in 2004, and you bury that.
And you buried it
as the third song in the credits.
You paid Juvenile the same amount that you paid Scarface to use that song, and you buried it behind literally anything. It was on during the like thanks list. Like, oh, thank you for like catering for us.
I don't think it would have done much for the film, but I would have been happy to hear it during it.
Yeah. I mean,
just
like,
some
why
recognition
even have
of it.
those songs if you're not going to use them? That's what I don't get.
But I was definitely not gonna watch the credits after I watched that film. There's nothing motivating me to stick around for longer. So I'm surprised to hear there was more songs in the credits.
Oh, honestly, like even a bad credits ending or nothing happens, it's like just watching and seeing some ridiculous thing show up on there. Like you find about animal handlers or whatnot. Somebody made a me so horny joke.
Yeah, I was about to bring this up.
In the movie, made the joke. And that compelled Miramax to include Me So Horny as one of the songs from the movie. The song is never played.
Never.
Somebody makes a Me So Horny joke, which again is a sample of a movie.
Right.
It is Full Metal Jacket. It's not even like Two Live Crew created Me So Horny, the sample.
But they credited Two Live Crew with having a song on the soundtrack.
And I want to just take a moment, if I could, just to apologize to Luke Skywalker and Two Live Crew for sample snitching on where they got the speech. Right. I know that is not common knowledge, and I apologize to them in advance. We will
sample snitching.
We will correct this. We do not believe in sample snitching here.
I think you could even bleep that out in post.
I could.
I think you should.
Lazy man.
Oh God. Okay. We asked how old they were, and we got no answer.
I think they're mid-30s.
I'm ready to ask another question.
I think they're
mid-30s. He's a boxer.
What are you trying to say about people in their mid-30s? You could be in your mid-30s and still active.
Like trying to fight for. He said he was fighting for a big shot.
At what?
You're not just gonna get your big shot at 35. I'm sorry to burst everybody's bubble. But if you're hearing this and you're like 32 years old and you're like, maybe I should become a professional boxer, you're probably not gonna make it.
I think his big shot could have been locally, Like it could have just been.
I mean, it's too vague for us to know, but I just think it's wild that he's like, I'm getting a big shot, and we're thinking they're mid-30s.
It's crazy to even read into it because there's no reason to assume anything that they wrote about this character had substance. But
fair. I mean, it's fair. But if you don't dive in, then all we've said the entire time is this movie is shit.
Yeah.
Total garbage.
You have to explore all the nooks and
I
crannies.
gotta ask the big question before we I don't want to get to a point where we're wrapping this up without the big question.
Okay.
What is the plot of this movie? What is the plot of this? Gary and I have been asking each other 4 or 5 times a day for the last week since we saw it.
What is the plot with Miles? Miles?
Oh man. It's like a slice of life. It's just...
If you had to write a couple of sentences for the like little bio that comes up when you're seeing it on cable, what would you write?
Middle-aged men navigate adulthood and the trials and tribulations
Do
of
they?
life.
Do they navigate? Do they? I just like, would you feel like you could go to sleep at night saying that to people and misleading them is all I'm asking.
Absolutely not.
Right?
I
don't think
something.
I could do that either.
You made me go first. Like, I have to say something here.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
I'm doing my best.
I don't mean to hurt your feelings on that. I just like, do they? I don't think they do. Okay. I'll go.
I do mean to hurt your
first.
feelling a little bit.
A little.
Just a little bit.
I think the caption would have to be three housemates. Can we call them housemates? 3 housemates get women pregnant and deal with they don't have consequences. You can't make a sentence about the movie because it would be declarative. You would have to declare something in this movie was worth caring about for it to be the plot.
We
So,
can't
like-
do we can't do better than the tagline, the official tagline for this movie.
Hit me.
They're going from players to playtime.
Are they players?
They are not
They
fucking
are not
players.
players. Okay, Imperioli seems to have a touch because
He's
at
the only
least there's
one.
more than one person that's
But
like
then,
willing
like,
to
what-
hook up with them.
What is
And
it,
they did
Uncle-
have a condom machine. This is wild because they had a condom machine inside the
Condom
house,
machine.
but two of them were in committed relationships.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Condom machine in the house, 2 of them committed relationships. They're not players because they're in committed relationships.
I'm not saying you can't use a condom. if you're
condom
not
machine in the
committed
house. Yeah,
relationship,
they
but,
both
like,
got those people knocked up.
Obviously, you weren't using it because everyone.
Must
Got
have been.
Yeah,
people
like who was
pregnant
that
that night.
for?
They're not players. We have to accept that the tagline is inherently false. And they don't play with these kids at any point during this movie, so playtime doesn't even count. So
Yeah,
I
like
think
at every point in the movie, they're figuring out excuses to not be with their children. He's like,
Yeah.
I gotta go box, and like they're always passing the kids off, and every mother is like, "You're not active in your child's life. I'm leaving." So they're not players, and they didn't
What
have
is the plot
playtime.
of this
So
movie?
even their tagline is bullshit. So it's a fool's errand.
Okay, let me try
come
again.
up with.
so then the correct tagline is they're going from to that's it. That's all they
They're going
Just
from
space
to.
it's a Mad Lib you don't fill in.
It's
Yeah.
a mad. That's actually the tagline.
That's
It's
the
a Mad Lib you don't fill in.
tagline. That's the
It's a Mad Lib you don't fill. Baby, my baby's daddy. A Mad Lib you don't fill in.
Okay, we're getting
Yeah,
somewhere.
we got there.
I
No,
think
I still
if
don't
I
think we
were,
got
if you
there.
were to write an honest, blurb, it would be 3 housemates navigate zaniness in unfunny times.
Do they is this film zany?
I think it's supposed to be.
It's that's
have to
very
make an
generous
assumption.
to call it zany.
Zany.
I
Zany
agree with you.
implies-
I wouldn't like use that word, I guess, but
You did.
I think
though.
that
you
that
actually
was-
used that word, the specific word.
we have to go
zany.
with intent because nothing actually was executed.
Well,
We have
that's
to go
why
with intent.
that's why
Baby
we
crawling scene. There was a cartoon in it for no reason.
we ended up with the blank Mad Lib because there is no intent, right?
Yeah,
So every
yeah.
time we try to place intent on this intentless
2
movie,
white rappers drop the M bomb just right at
Oh
the
my
end of the
god!
fucking
Bro,
movie.
we
They just
skipped
like
over
come
that
on and they're
too.
like, oh, by the way, we're just gonna ruin if you did like what you were doing and what you were seeing, we're just gonna ruin it all.
So Debo's in this movie too. So
Debo's in this movie.
Debo.
Debo as
Drive-by.
Okay. So like remember
You can call
when
Michael
I said
Imperioli
zany-
whatever you want.
when I said
the only
zany,
two things you
that
call him are Debo or Drive-by in this context. Is this the two?
drive-by is a full example of the zaniness they were trying to pull off. That scene where he makes Moldesanti and the 2 white rappers, the Sklar brothers,
Yes.
who are like, if you're watching something and the Sklar brothers are in it, just go do something else. Like, listen, go do something else. Like,
I
it's
really hope you're gonna bring up the milk and cookies.
the milk and cookies.
The milk and
He
cookies.
like forces everyone in the room to eat milk and cookies through threat of violence. And he also later in this fucking movie hands everyone a contract to sign, and all that's on the contract are the giant words, don't fuck with me.
I particularly
That
love the
shit
milk and
was
cookies part.
dope.
He's like, is there something wrong with my milk and cookies? You better dip them shit. It's like it's
Better
so
dip
like
'em.
it's one of the high points of the movie just because it's so absurd. It's like
That zany. Like
that. Okay,
there's
I'll give
shit
you
like that where like you think you know that they were going for a zany madcap comedy, and it's just capped.
But they weren't.
It's not
the thing
madcap
is,
at all.
they're not. There's no consistency to it. Is the problem?
No.
And that there are moments like the babies with teeth talking, like the milk and cookies bit. Some of the farts, the Lamaze class.
Oh, I mean, the
fart.
Lamaze classes are bizarre in and of themselves.
Like choose your favorite position. Thank you, Amy Sedaris, for actually playing like the straight man in that act. Amy
This
Sedaris
movie is so
doesn't even
stacked
tell
to
jokes.
be
She
this
doesn't tell
awful.
jokes in that. She's just like is playing off of the stuff that's
She's
happening.
a great character too.
She's someone you could tap for zaniness. You could do amazing things.
Right.
They don't even bother with that with her. So you have these scenes where it's like, oh, this is a gross out comedy, right? This is meant to be like a zany gross out thing.
Yeah.
No, and then it's like huge passages that transpire of seriousness, and then you're shoehorning in with intent. This is where intent comes in. Shoehorning in the actually I'm a lesbian part of the storyline in there.
Man.
And that's like honestly, it's one of the few things that
What
happens
a
in this
wild letdown that was.
movie. No. It's one of the few things that happens in this movie that keeps it from being complete trash. Is
Yeah.
the way in which, and this is of course to the director's credit, the way in which Cheryl Dunye introduces ideas into this film and normalizes them. In another film, the lesbianism would have been over-sexualized on the part of the men, way more than it was in the one moment where he's watching them kiss. It would have been deeper with the homophobia for jokes.
I'll agree with that.
Instead,
I'll give it
now,
credit there.
Here, look, this is the fact that
I
like,
will
this is
say
like-
that later the dude did make like a whole speech about how he would have just been pimping them.
yeah,
but-
there's still some
but
of that. It's just
to
still
the-
from the
like,
writers
to
of
the
Van
credit-
Wilder.
To the credit of this, like the introduction to them being together was just like, we're together.
Yeah.
Fucking deal with it.
That's
I
what
did
happens
like
when you have Cheryl Dunye, an out black lesbian director
Yeah.
who had been credited, a few years prior to that, actually more than a few years prior to that, as having been the first out black lesbian to ever helm a feature film. That's how she's credited and heralded as for the Watermelon Woman.
Right.
That's how she's credited. And this obviously she did write this thing, and she wrote about this being in interviews. She talked about this being a very bad experience and how it wasn't her movie and it was kind of taken from her.
I've also written in my notes that I had a bad experience. So she and we see eye to eye on that.
But in some of those interviews, like she did a great interview with Mario Van Peebles, like the same year that this movie comes out, and they talk about how impressed he was with representation on screen.
Oh, it was
and
excellent.
And you think about that context, like, okay, so there's lesbianism represented, there is interracial relationships that are completely normalized in terms of a generation. Like, yeah, there's history and whatnot, but like the issue that Bai Ling's family has with Anthony Anderson is not about him being black. It's about very justifiable things of why he sucks as a guy. He
just sucks. Okay,
so like
straight up and down, his character sucks. And everything and anything is just an awful human.
I just wanted to quickly note, it's really easy to take for granted that this film came out in 2004 and what it's seems normalized almost 20 years later. I wasn't even thinking about, because I was like, oh yeah, this is all just fine. But in the context of when this came out, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really progressive. It's interesting to even give it that much credit. It makes me feel a little I hate to use this word, but it does feel sick to give it that deep read, but it is there. So
welcome
it's
to the
totally
podcast. Welcome
to
the
man.
podcast.
This is what
we fucking do.
This is it.
You should
give it the deep read, man.
We did an episode about the movie Hot for Trot.
Oh god,
a complete garbage film about a talking horse.
It was the best.
And that episode we did with we had Lando Chill come on, and Lando basically broke down like the critical race theory component of this
film. Yeah.
Of that film, and it was just we
got lost in the sauce on that one, man. We
were just
for so long about it.
It was amazing.
Great.
So the fact that we can recognize that this film that is deeply flawed horrendously edited, barely written.
The couples are given credence to be happy, even though they are not.
To be happy and to not.
And they are like of two different races. 2 out of the 3 of them are like.
I mean, if there is an underlying theme in this film, it is that everyone is trying their best for the best outcome. So like everyone's working towards a goal where everyone's happy. So even when they walk away from the relationships, they're like they just want things to be okay. There's some optimism in here.
There's the fact that it's bad is mostly frustrating because there's excellent components involved. There are people that we know, we have seen do incredible work, and they're like, you know, ripping giant farts and bending over to have sex in a public.
But look, man, like also like
babies with teeth. It's a fucking weird time in there, man.
Yeah,
there's stuff we haven't touched on at all. The bizarre club scene where the rappers perform, and the rap song that is performed by these white rappers,
and that people like the song.
They were like jumping up on things and like hardcore dancing to this shit.
Has this ever happened to you at a show, Miles? That you like you're up there and you're just like trying to win over a crowd, and suddenly they just like
jump up on shit.
4 bars in, they're now like jumping up and just like now you're their favorite person.
That happens at every show.
Every show. Okay, that's what I make
sure. As well it should.
So it's realistic representation. Okay, just want to make sure. Just to clarify.
Yeah. Okay.
Where does John Amos live
in the film?
Yeah.
Like upstairs, I guess. Like
where in the house?
They live upstairs.
Does Uncle? Yeah, where in the house does Uncle Vinny live?
I don't know. Do they show like where anyone lives in the film? Like
no.
We know they're in the house, but like doesn't like Anthony Anderson's character wake up on a couch in one scene, just like brushes everything off the table. Like we see Christopher in like a bedroom, but like it's not like they don't really say it's his bedroom. So like I don't know where anyone is placed in that house at any point during the film. I don't even know if they show that whole layout of the house, because like all the jumps and the cuts in the film, it's like hard to make sense of anything that's going on at any point.
My theory is that they all just like take whatever bedroom they want that night. None of all the rooms are like nondescript. There's no personality whatsoever to the house. It's nobody's house.
Is that what you and your roommate do, Jeff? You guys just kind of just pick whatever bedroom for the kid?
What we do off podcast, what I do off podcast is none of your concern, first and foremost.
That's true. That wasn't very progressive of me. I apologize for delving into your personal
Inappropriate.
life.
I wanted to mention that I got some Grandma's Boy vibes from this film as well.
Oh, I wish.
Did you now? That doesn't make me want to watch that movie at all.
Go on. No, I'm curious of what you saw the parallels, because Grandma's Boy is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Now I regret bringing that up.
No. You can't get away from it.
You've uncovered a scab. This one has been something that's mentioned a lot.
No, I mean, like I literally just like the name of the film came up just from like being in the house and like the drunkenness and lackadaisical nature of like what's going on in your life. It's just like a no care in the world, no direction, like, and then somehow that's the driving force of the film. Like that you're not doing anything with your life. So
it is the driving force of this film, is that nobody's doing anything with their lives at all. Is that bad?
I mean,
it is nice to see that representation. As somebody who's not really trying to do anything with my life, I like the representation. I appreciate it.
You saw yourself in this movie?
No. No, I won't go that far, Gary.
Okay. Say you're like, I saw myself. I see me.
I saw a sliver of me there.
Yeah. I think like more in the sense of like we shouldn't be working so hard, because like all we do in our lives is work all the time. So there's something like, if you will, there's something nice about the fact that these people are somehow existing with no sense of direction or purpose. But I don't think they should be having children. Like that's just fucking crazy.
The one thing that we know definitively about this film is that those 3 men should not have been given custody of their children at any given time during this film.
USA. USA. USA.
Oh man, Hollywood post 2001, man. We've spent a lot of time in Hollywood post 2001, post September 11th, and it's just
never forget.
There was so much regression in the making of films that they just like could not offend their audience, and they actually ended up making some of the most offensive art ever made. Just total trash.
There was at least several times during watching this I was like, how did this get greenlit? Like, how did no one stop this from happening? At
no
any
point did someone see it and go,
no.
Yeah, stop.
It got greenlit because of Eddie Griffin, who had an existing relationship with Miramax through his stand-up specials, stuff that actually was successful. His roles, his kind of smaller roles in these films, he had some sort of arrangement with Miramax. And
my dad loved Eddie Griffin, and I'm glad that he didn't see this and that he can't see it. And it was guaranteed he'd never see this movie. I'm so happy because it would have ruined Eddie Griffin for him. He adored Eddie Griffin.
This film feels like a lot of favors were called in because I just don't understand how this cast came together. And then again, repeatedly, no one stepped in to be like, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. There's so many like things had to go wrong thousands of times for this film to get made.
Imperioli, I want to ask one thing before I know we're going to vote. We're going to let you live and not have to talk about this fucking film anymore. Imperioli's situation. If you're like mad at this dude that you like hooked up with at work and he's not paying attention to your child, just don't remind him he has a child. Problem solved. Why does she keep coming back and being like, hey man, like we need you in there? You don't need him. There's no point. He's not, I don't understand it. It's a weird relationship to like focus in on.
You'll understand when you're a single mom, Jeff.
Lord knows that can't come soon enough. All right, let's vote.
Jeff, is this a good, bad movie?
I got to go first?
Yes.
No, it's not a good, bad movie.
We know it's a bad movie.
It's not one of the worst. It ranks up there with one of the most frustrating watches I've ever had for this podcast.
Okay.
The second time getting through this thing, every scene, I was like, fuck this fucking scene. And it wasn't like, oh man, this fucking scene. That's when I know I'm having a good time. When I'm like, oh, I forgot that this, the only scene that I looked forward to this time around, the second time around, was the milk and cookies scene. And when the babies happened, I can't believe it. It's so poorly put together that I forgot that babies just started talking and had full adult mouths in the middle of this like love scene. It's a terrible film. Do not watch this film. It's a bad, bad movie. Gary?
Oh, I go next? Fantastic.
Oh no, you're the host. You do your thing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm glad we recognize.
Ask whoever you like. You can ask me again. I'll give you the same answer.
Okay, if you give the same answer, that's not really how podcasting
same answer.
works.
I still hate it.
Podcasting doesn't really work that way. Just repetition is as they go. In my opinion, this is not a good, bad movie. It is my pick. I picked this one, and I will take ownership for it again. I'm happy to. This is my choice.
It's
again,
a stinker.
It's, you sort of hope you're going to get something out of this that maybe was underrated, that there's a particular scene that's really funny. A lot of the ways in which, I get content these days is through Instagram showing me old movies I've watched before from the 2000s, 2010s, comedies, just feeding me little bits from these films over and over again. And they think maybe this is one of those films where there's like a scene or two that's like really funny on its own, standalone. With Eddie Griffin writing this thing, I came into it with reasonable expectations that maybe this is a film that didn't do well, that didn't do well for reasons in spite of the film. It's like you've got an acclaimed director, independent director.
If I had known at the time this came out all of that, I didn't ever see this and I had forgotten it existed. But if everything had been told to me, I would have been like, I'll go.
I was like, okay, maybe they presented this wrong. Maybe it's actually really funny. Like if we watch a movie like Soul Plane, like that's a good, bad movie to me. Like that's a movie where it's like, I can pull out like the John Witherspoon scenes in that and be like, every single one of those makes me laugh. Every single one of those is funny. And like, okay, I can say this is a good, bad movie in this. But with this film, there's none of that there. It has all this potential promise that is completely unfulfilled.
Just none.
Completely unfulfilled by.
But we're setting this up.
Yeah.
And now Miles is gonna be like, I love this movie.
All right. What's your take? What's your take? Is this a good, bad movie?
There's zero redeeming qualities about this movie.
It's a stinker.
I can't believe I put the energy into watching this twice, and I didn't really give it a full second watch, but I knew I needed to watch it again because in order to talk about it, I had to recall some of what happened because the first watch is just, it's like a journey. It felt like being on psychedelics because I never knew what was going on at any point or why things were happening. And a lot of it, I was just like,
similar experience with Cat in a Hat.
Yeah, I was like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
Why did I was like, not in like a bad way. I did have the option to pick another movie, but it was like there were question marks. I don't know if I was supposed to say that. So I was I could even. I
did give you a choice of dates. I said like you can choose this date and this is the movie, or you can choose a later date for the mystery movie.
I felt like it was gonna be a shit show either way, but I went with like, well, at least I could see the name of this movie. How bad could it be? That was wrong.
We got to see Method Man. That was cool.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I can't. Yeah, no, this is not. Don't watch this movie. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's really bad.
Yes, Jeff.
Gary, why are we doing this to people, man? We like rappers. We
do. Yeah.
We like rap music and we like rappers. Something we talk about all the time. Why are we putting them through this hell? And what are we trying to prove?
I don't see it as hell, though. I think that we're giving them a unique experience, different than the usual interview style podcast. We're giving them something a little different.
I think we can do that outside the parameters of making them watch total garbage, pointless, narrativeless, aimless, wandering ass movies. We made people watch a lot of bad movies over the last year or so, is all I'm saying.
But we also got some great conversations out of those.
Like there's plenty of opportunities to maybe explore a new avenue of just like, maybe it's going to be bad, maybe it's not, but it doesn't have to be bad is all I'm saying. Like we used to do this thing where we would like have a theme, a loose theme, and we'd watch some wild films, some good, some bad, some confusing, some with a lot of pot smoke in them.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Stoner Season. You're talking about Stoner Season, basically.
Yeah.
Because we watched some films that were objectively good and funny,
right?
And other ones that were, you know,
like we had breaks from like it. Look, if we go the direction I think we're gonna go with this, and I make my pick, it's not. It's not gonna be very fun. I don't think it's gonna be fun to do this again.
Well,
I mean, I can't do. I don't know if I want to do this thing.
I mean, look, we just started. I know this is episode 1. Like we've just kind of got back into it. I totally get some jitters. You know, some first day jitters. I get that, but like, you know, I think we had a good conversation. I think Miles was a terrific guest, and I think we had a great conversation with him.
I don't mean to disparage the pod, man. You know, I'm back, baby. Yeah. We're doing the pod. I'm back.
Yeah, we're here, right? Yeah,
we're doing the damn thing. But like, what if we called an audible? And hear me out.
Okay.
During our episode, you said to Miles and I would watch all of Method Man's movies. How many movies does Method Man have? Can we do a whole season on Method Man? Does he have enough huge starring roles to carry this?
I mean, he didn't star in this movie. It's an
interesting idea, is all I'm saying.
He didn't star in this movie, and I think he's been in a number of films,
Right.
and I've seen some, but I feel like there's more films where he has a pretty peripheral role. Maybe supporting, maybe cameo.
Maybe we
I
do.
I mean, that happens in a lot of rapper movies. Like, you know,
Just movies.
I mean, I wouldn't say this is a rapper movie, what we just watched, you know, but
No.
like in movies where rappers show up, they often show up in the limited context.
What if we found a bunch of rapper movies?
I mean, there are plenty of rapper movies.
There's
like movies
tons.
where rappers are like
There's
in like between
ones
like
where
ensemble.
they made them themselves. There's
Mhm.
ones where they're the writer director. There's ones where
Yeah,
they're like, hell yeah.
yeah, and some are
There's
big
big
really
stars, small stars.
good. Some are really good, and some are
Some of them
not
cast
good.
all their friends. Some of them are like professionally cast. It like this could be cool. I would watch a bunch of rapper movies.
You and I went to go see Belly not long
We
ago,
did.
and
And
that
I
was
loved
great.
it. I loved that movie.
Should we just watch some rapper movies?
Let's just watch a bunch of movies with rappers in them, man. Where are my Queen Latifah movies at? Where are my Eve movies at? Let's get
We
it.
got to get a Master P film in there.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
I think we could do this. Yeah.
I don't
okay.
want to. I don't really want to fight no more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Bad movie battle over.
It's done.
Bad movie battle over. It's time for letting go. I don't care who's wrong or right. Let's watch
I
some
don't care
rapper
who's
movies.
wrong or right. I don't really want to fight no more. Because
No,
it's
watch some rapper
time
movies.
for letting go.
All right. Well, we'll keep this episode because we had fun.
Totally.
But yeah, we're gonna watch some rapper movies. Let's do
Let's
it.
do it.
It's the Cabbages Podcast Network.